Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of Creation of Anatomy. I'm your co-host, Eric Valero.
I'm your co-host, Sarah Holcraft.
And today we are reading from Theology of the Body, Section 6 of the intro, The Purpose of Theology of the Body, Section A, Why Theology of the Body in particular. I said that right this time, right?
Yep, pages 94 to 99. Pretty short section we read.
So, what time is it right now?
This is our first morning podcast. It's not super early. It's like 8 o'clock.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
But it's coffee time.
But it's coffee time. This is the first time we're having coffee
I
on the
know.
podcast.
You can actually have something caffeinated right now.
Well, I could drink caffeinated tea in the evening.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it's
keep
crazy.
me up. But this will keep me up. Coffee keeps me up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wake me up right now.
Yeah. And we're glamping, so the coffee has to be black. It's
Yes.
number one rule. You have to have black coffee.
Yeah, well, doesn't change anything for me, but
Does
I'm
for
loving
me. I like milk in my coffee.
But we are in a camper right now, in the middle of the woods in
Virginia. Yeah, which is so much further than I thought it was.
Virginia's a big state. United States is a big country.
I know.
I mean, New Jersey looks like you took like states, but then just shrunk them and had everything so much closer together. You know, it has everything of the United States, but it's all like compact into a little state.
Yeah. I think because of how big New Jersey is, I just imagine that all the states around are the same size. Except for Pennsylvania. I know Pennsylvania's big. But because if you're driving to D.C., I think it's like a 4 to 5 hour drive depending on traffic.
D.C.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of
associate even less, yeah.
D.C. with Virginia. So the fact that it took 6 hours.
Well, I mean, if you got to think, like, Maryland is, I mean, I guess it's area-wise, it's pretty decently big, but I don't know, you could just drive right through that thing.
Yeah.
You know? Delaware is actually a longer trip through it.
Yeah.
We were in Delaware for a while. But.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I noticed Delaware.
You were sleeping for most of the back end of it. I don't even think you know sometimes when you're sleeping.
That's true.
So, what are we doing in Virginia?
I'm glad you asked. Well, I'm glad you're wearing a t-shirt. We ran a Spartan race yesterday.
Finisher. 20 obstacles.
A Spartan race. 5K, 20 obstacles. And I'm feeling a little sore this morning. Not terribly, but like I feel okay right now. But waking up this morning, I was feeling a little achy creaky.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You weren't?
Not really.
Okay, that's good.
Maybe tomorrow.
To be honest, the actual thing is because I was carrying my bucket on my neck.
Me too. I have a spot where I was leaning the bucket on right here. This spot right here, it's like almost like a skin thing. It feels like I really dented my skin right here from that bucket. Yeah.
I just have a bruise on one of my spine knobs.
Spine knobs.
It's the technical term.
Spinous processes. Yes, the technical term.
But it was good. To be honest, I find a lot of spiritual symbolism in running Spartan.
So we were in the middle of the race and you were telling me about it.
Yeah. I thought it'd be encouraging for you.
Yeah, no, it was.
Good.
Honestly, and you know what? It was from what you said, it was like, oh man, there is no chance that I could be like, hey, can we take a break?
Oh no, I feel bad.
No, but there was no chance after what you said.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Well, so this was a very uphill race, and I think it was the second uphill we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we went uphill, and then it felt like you were at the top.
You said it on the downhill.
Yeah. Well, then you go downhill a little bit, and then you turn. you realize there's more uphill. So
That
then we're going
feeling.
uphill again, and as we were going uphill, I was thinking about the fact that Jesus died on a mountain, which means that he didn't just carry his cross on flat terrain, but he had to carry it up a hill,
Yeah.
which is absolute, like, just doing it, like, we were a little bit tired, but we weren't carrying anything. So just doing it, like, I don't know, without anything and a good night's rest, whatever, a healthy body, thinking about Jesus doing that is, it makes you realize how much we can do, like, in a human
Mm-hmm.
body. This actually is very applicable to
I was gonna say.
something we just read, but um and also just like, we chose to do this. Like, there's no reason to complain about a race that you chose to do,
Right.
you know?
But I also think that there is an element of um maybe like getting to know God in
Mhm.
doing a race like that,
Yeah.
because one of the aspects of God is suffering, is the fact that he suffered. And I guess a certain amount of like, I don't think I've known that much uphill
Yeah.
in my life, and that was there was an element of suffering with it that came
Mhm.
along with it. It was there was a sense of like extreme fatigue
Yeah.
that is an element of suffering. So it gets the understanding of God in that way, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And nothing against people who took a break. Like, if you need a break, then take a break.
No.
But I don't want to miss out on the chance to experience something that God might be wanting me to experience by taking a break, if that makes sense. Like, if I don't want to take a break if I don't need it.
Hmm.
And obviously we didn't need it. And then after we did those uphills, we got to the top. And to be honest, we were kind of given a break just by how slow moving we were going
It was a
through.
very, I think so. I think that was, I was gonna be like, hey, can you guys move out of the way? And then I'm like, well, first off, I feel like it was two negatives. One, I felt like, there's nothing wrong with your body needing a little break. And
Hmm.
also, it was like, there's probably like 8 people in front of us. And I'm like,
Yeah, it would have been a
I don't
lot.
want to like irritate 8 people and they have to
Yeah.
stop too.
Right,
It slows the
yeah.
whole thing down. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
And you know what? I also thought it would discourage the girl on the front,
Yeah.
because the girl in the front was definitely struggling,
Mhm.
but like making it through. And she was leading our
Mhm.
little Lord of the Rings crew
Yeah.
through the woods there. And I'm like, you know what? Like, let something good stay good there.
Exactly, and it did feel good. Like, there's very, I think that's why I like the Spartan race, is there's a communal feeling, like a recognition of, because even when you're going through the obstacles, like, you're not gonna like nudge past people to get in
Right,
front.
right.
Like, you can make your way to the front, but then if somebody's in
There's
front
a
of
culture
you,
to it. Yeah,
exactly, and it's a very encouraging culture. Like, the
I like
people
that.
that we were walking with were even, like, they were in such good moods and high spirits, like, talking to each other.
Right,
Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever.
right. That's not what it was about
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah,
And if somebody were to try to do that, I think people would encourage them to realize that that's not what it's about.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's what a good culture is.
Mhm.
There's definitely good and bad cultures to these like subcultures of society, like
Yeah.
people that run Spartan races, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's a sign of a good culture,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
When people are just like, I never felt like the culture had to be um maintained in any kind of way. It just self-maintained itself. It was just
Mhm.
like, this is how everybody's going to treat each other.
Mhm.
It's all encouragement. It's not
Yeah.
like shove you out of the way, or like, you know.
At least that's how this the non-timed races. I kind of am curious, like, if you're running a timed race for like a competitive.
And you know what? I bet there's a culture around that too. That
I'm
like,
sure.
where
Yeah.
where like, this is how to show respect. Like, maybe
Like, get out of people's
get out of
way.
people's way.
Yeah.
I saw a couple times when there's this one girl in front of me, And like I didn't say anything to her because like she was just joking around. I wasn't trying to like, but um, I almost slammed into her because like I'm running behind her
Yeah.
and we're running downhill, and then all of a sudden she
Right.
goes, I forget what she said, like something like a ski thing when you like
Oh, the pizza.
pizza thing,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden she just jukes to the right where I'm running, and I'm like, oh, like
Yeah, yeah.
but like I just kind of like ran around. Try I could have been
Yeah.
like, get out of my way.
Yeah, going downhill was interesting because it almost felt like a video game. Like there were people in the way
Oh,
and you just kind of had to go around them and
and your brain is
still
going
find.
so fast
Yeah.
because you got to think your step count when you're going uphill is like, I don't know, one every 3 seconds. But your step count going downhill is probably three every 1 second. And like you have to make sure that your foot places right, or else you're spraining an ankle, you're falling flat in your face,
I
your
know.
knees don't properly break, and you're buckling under.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, let's get on to the text today. So we read this last night, so it should be pretty fresh in the head. But there was a few interesting. Well, I guess he started off by talking, and this introduction is very repetitive, talking about how theology of the body is broken down in three parts. Right, the beginning, where he talks about his relationship with the text of Saint John of the Cross, and then the challenge, which is his ventures into like non-Christian philosophers,
Mhm.
and they questioned, I guess, through looking at there's that philosophy questioned his point of view, and then the third section, which was the response, which was the defense of the body, right? And kind of explaining how Jesus being missing, and the Trinity specifically being missing from a lot of between Descartes, Kant, and Scheller,
Mhm.
how it's the Trinity and the incarnation of the Word that is kind of the response to all of those critiques of Trinitarianism.
Mhm.
So I thought, which was interesting, is how he talked about the ancient Gnostics, how they found themselves in a demonic, anti-divine universe, and that matter is evil. And um, it just kind of sprung to mind um, an oversimplification of society at large. Um, and there's this book called the Gulag Archipelago.
Mhm.
It was written by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He was a Gulag Soviet Union prisoner, and he it's a fantastic book. He explains his whole experience not only in the prison but in Soviet Russia or Soviet Union at the time, right? And I think one of the confusions around like what to do at that time was who's evil,
Mhm.
right? And where is the evil, right? Because if you look around you, most people at that time were being told lies, but living out those lies and living out things they knew to be lies. And I think one of the things that he struggled with was where is evil,
Mhm.
right? Like is there groups of people? Are the Bolsheviks evil, or are this group evil, right? And he has a fantastic line in that book, which is the line dividing good and evil doesn't cross through states or political groups, but through the heart of every man,
Mhm.
right? And I think that you can take that and think of what he's saying here. In the ancient Gnostics found themselves in a demonic, anti-divine universe. Matter is evil. And that is obviously taken to its climax in, I guess not explicitly, but implicitly in Descartes' work, right? Where there's this idea of dualism, where there's a body with a mind, almost trapped inside of the body,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's this element of the mind is the real you. The mind is like your soul, and that your body is this piece of garbage that like you're stuck inside like a prison,
Yeah.
right? And I remember thinking that.
Well, I was gonna say, I think Christians have to be careful not to fall into that as well,
Mm,
because even the reading we read yesterday, I think the mass reading from Saint Paul, he talks a lot about the spirit and how the flesh is weak, and
mm.
some people can interpret that to mean that like exactly that, like our spirit is who we really are, and this body is just like it just has to be here, like we just need it for the sake of physicality,
One
matter,
might say that
whatever.
the interpretation of that is where the Gnostics developed from.
Right. I Yeah. And I think I don't know how, if we were to live that way, I think in some ways we kind of do. We almost wish that our bodies, like we could make it so black and white
Hmm?
that everything good for our spirit is good and everything that is pleasure is bad. But obviously God made us in a complex way, and that's not the case, and we have to be much more, it forces us to be more in tune with God, because we can't just rely on like our spiritual, I guess like it's easy to know that God is at church
Mm.
and God is in our prayer and he's in all the spiritual stuff, but he also wants us to be aware of him in all of the physical stuff, in matter, in his creation, and in the way that our bodies experience the world as well.
Well, I think it's also, and this is, I remember watching this YouTube video. It was like a new age thing back when I think I was, maybe it was like right after high school. And it was a very popular video. Kind of, I think it was a video kind of summing up, and in an attempt, I guess, to sum up all of New Age in some kind of canonical way, right?
Okay.
And it was, I forget, it was like the Hidden Human History or something like that. It was a very popular video, and a lot of people followed this video as like, oh my goodness, this is kind of like a canonical way of looking at New Age, right? Because it's hard, because what's New Age? Like, what book is the canon of New Age,
Right.
right? There's not really one. Um, but I remember, like, after that video came out, there was like successive videos that came out after that, and I remember somebody had asked him like, "This sounds all fine, but like, shouldn't we all kill ourselves?" Like, and then he kind of got stuck with it. He's like, and he didn't really have a good answer. He's kind of just like, though if you do, there would be nothing wrong because your body would just be freed from the prison it's in. Like, you shouldn't. And he kind of gave like a, because there's important things you should do here. I'm like, that's a weak reason not to kill
Yeah.
yourself. Somebody that's really struggling with suicide is not going to hear that reason and go, yeah, okay, I guess this is worth it staying here because there's a couple things that are I'm gonna miss.
Right.
Like, that's such a weak argument, and somebody needs a strong argument
Especially against
to stay
freedom.
here.
Like if you were like, my responsibility or experiencing freedom, like which one am I going to choose?
Hmm.
It's, yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, and the thing is that like I'm glad I watched that particular video because there was almost like a big red flag in my head with New Ageism at that point because I
Mm-hmm.
was definitely falling into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was, what was interesting is I feel like God was sending me a lot of friends at that time. I could probably name them off right now, but you know who I'm talking about that fell into that God was definitely sending me. And I think if it's weird to think about this now. I think if I didn't watch that one video and have that red flag, I think I would have probably delved as deep as they did into it. But I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of always the friend that was just like, we should be a little cautious of this,
Yeah.
right? Like, eventually, like, some of them went really off the deep end,
Yeah.
and their lives are much worse off for it now.
It's interesting you say that God sent those people to you because I think we think that God sends people to us only for like um to encourage us or inspire us or but I think it's true that sometimes people are put in our lives so that we can see a truth. Well, I think always people are sent into our lives so that we can see a truth about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's the truth that we are a more than we believe. Sometimes it's the truth that we're going in the wrong direction. And I think what I like about theology of the body, and to be honest, Christianity in general, is just how we acknowledge that every person here on earth like is a gift
Mm-hmm.
and was created for a purpose. And it's strange to say like I don't I don't think those people who like your friends who are falling into that their purpose on earth was to show you what it would be like to fall into that. But at the same time, like in that particular moment in time, God did use them and hopefully used you as well
Mm-hmm.
in their lives to kind of like help bring each other back to reality.
Well, I think that I think God could be found in logic,
Mhm.
right? Because God created logic. So I think sometimes logic is your pathway back to God.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important um, to use. And obviously, there was an illogical argument that was made in that video. And I remember almost each time having a conversation with each of those friends that I had, and there being a time where I broke off from them in their logic.
Mhm.
And I remember kind of what you were saying about like God doesn't just like use people and like their whole point is for them to have some disastrous life,
Right.
and so you see. And I remember when I broke off from one of my friends' logic, she was talking about how I think she was getting into some drug problems,
Mhm.
and she had a friend that had died of an overdose. And she says that I think that person was because she was very much a believer in like the universe kind of thing, right? And that was universe sends this, and it's kind of like a bastardized version of God,
Mhm.
and that sent that person on Earth to be an example.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, and I'm like, I don't think that anyone on Earth, their point here was to die of a drug overdose so that
Yeah.
other people can
Like for
see
your sake.
for your sake.
Yeah.
Is that like, I think that person had a greater purpose. And maybe you don't even understand. Maybe they even fulfilled the purpose. I have no clue. I don't know this
Mhm.
person. But nobody is put on here to
Right.
be some kind of to be made an example and mm,
I think it's just situations. God uses situations around us to teach us something. And I
right.
think that's why like we shouldn't take going back to the Spartan race, to be honest, we shouldn't take suffering for granted because there's something that God can use from that to tell us something about ourselves, tell us something about the world we live in, tell us something about the way that He wants to care for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost necessary that we do suffer and witness suffering to one know that we need God and also see a path to get to Him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the reason, and I think the reason that sometimes children, they, when they're trying to like develop a relationship with God, they're kind of like, um, they're not like little kids anymore, but and they're trying, starting to develop like their own thought process and
Mm-hmm.
personality and stuff, probably like middle school age, they often they can see that a relationship with God exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they see people around them, they have good examples of it. They just don't know how to reach that.
Yeah.
And I think in my experience and in hearing other people talk about how they came to know God, it's oftentimes through suffering, something that was difficult you experienced,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden something, it wasn't like, it didn't have to be like a one time thing that something just clicked and you and God were best friends,
Right.
but there was something you begin to understand about who God is and
Mm-hmm.
who he wants to be in your life. And finally, you're able to surrender whatever it is that you were holding on to that couldn't allow you to see him before or experience him before.
Right. I think it's kind of funny because something came to my mind when you were saying that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of almost said exactly what I was like gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
But um, I think especially kids, because I mean I grew up in a Catholic school,
Yeah.
right? Very involved in the church, and I had a very particular relationship with God when I was a kid. I was very, very close to my spirituality as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
like up until I was like a teenager. But my relationship with God was much more through wonder and through nature and I mean, but also through the church. Like I was an altar server. I feel like I had a very strong connection to the mass and um the symbolism in the mass, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was not through suffering, right? I can't say that I suffered much as a child.
Yeah.
But one thing that really bothered me at first, because I couldn't understand this, was when I would see somebody sitting in the pews after mass, like praying and almost crying,
Yeah.
right? Or like we would go up and like process up to kiss the crucifix or something
Right.
like that, and somebody would go up and like bawl their eyes out as they did it. And to be honest, and this is just the interpretation of a child at this point because I was little,
Yeah.
but I was just like, my thoughts were, you're faking it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. Like I don't feel this, right? Like, and I would almost get mad at these people. I'm like, "What? I don't know. Like, why are you getting so upset,
Right.
right? Like, life seems to be pretty good. Like, why are you getting so upset?" And like, I'm not judging myself for having that reaction,
Right.
but that was my reaction because it was my experience of God at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, then you go through suffering in life, and like, I never thought I would cry praying the rosary,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I don't know why that happens, you
Right.
know? And now I understand the relationship that I have with God through suffering. And I look more like those people now
Right.
that I didn't understand. And I think one of the ways that I would hope, because I don't think you can't force that kind of understanding on children.
No.
You can't go like, um, I'm gonna just make your life miserable so you can see God. That doesn't
Right.
make any sense.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a sense, and we've talked about this, because sorry, I'm going too long on this one
No,
thing,
that's
but
good.
um, before we were talking about that, we were talking about like the Spartan race, right? And I took a Native American religion class in college, and I have to say is that, well, one thing, obviously, these are like pagan religions, right? But they were prior to any kind of exposure to Jesus Christ, right? But I think one thing that they did still have is a sense of truth.
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that they were seeking God, whether they were able to see him or not. And I think that's what's important about, I would call them in that aspect Christian, because they were seeking truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a very interesting element of truth in some of the initiation rites. And I think it's something we miss in our culture today is initiation rites. Is that when a person comes of a certain age, that they have to go out on this journey. I forget what the journey's called, but they can't eat, and they have to sit and kind of be in a meditative prayer by a tree, kind of like a Buddha type situation, right? And they have to sit there until one of the spirits that they believe in comes to them and helps them out of whatever situation they're in. I could be getting this whole story wrong, but it was through the suffering that the person had to go through
Mm-hmm.
that called upon these spirits,
Yeah.
right? And obviously, these spirits are God because those people are still children of God,
Yeah.
and through their suffering that they go through, they experience truth. They experience in them, they would say the spirits that they believe
Yeah.
in, but that those spirits would help them out of that situation, would give them the knowledge, they would say, to get out of it,
Oh, that's so interesting.
right? And the thing is that there is an element of a culture that should incorporate some kind of like test of grit. I mean, especially for young boys, I feel like physical, like tolerance to discomfort
Yeah.
and pain is really important for young boys,
Yeah.
because I mean right now I really do not like seeing teenage boys coming in and saying, "Oh, I sprained my ankle and now I'm out of sports for the next like 6 weeks." I'm like, sprain your ankle. I mean, you could, obviously I'm not being insensitive. You could do some damage to your ankle, but like
Mm-hmm.
most of these people, they got to walk it off,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And you got, and the thing is that like I just wonder, like they're just not that tough anymore.
Yeah, a lot of complaining. And to be honest, it's in general, I think a part of it is not just not having the initiation rites, but even when naturally, like, I think initiation rites are almost in life naturally,
They will, yeah.
and parents, teachers, whoever, they try to protect the kids from them. And like,
Perfect. Exactly.
I'm just going to make sure that you're okay and safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
And then they lose something. Well, they lose a lot
Yeah.
when they don't get to experience. Because, yeah, obviously, like, we're not going to create suffering for the kid,
Right.
but
You
already
can't
naturally,
protect them.
like, they live in this world, they're going to experience suffering, and like let it happen when it happens, and then like talk them through it if they need to be talked
Sure.
through it.
That's the archetype of the great mother, the
Yeah.
blessed mother,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Is she did not take Jesus' suffering away. Could
Mhm.
she have hid Jesus? Of course she could have.
Yeah.
Right? She knew that, she knew from his birth that Jesus was going to suffer. You
Yeah.
know, Simeon told her that she was
Mhm.
going to have a sword pierce her heart, right, or pierce her soul, and she could have definitely hid Jesus,
Mhm.
but she didn't.
Yeah.
I think now I have no clue if this story is true, but I think the epitome of me hearing a story of that happening in real life was Jordan Peterson. I believe in his first book, Maps of Meaning, tells a story about his mother, where he was, um, I don't know, I think he was playing baseball or something like that, and he saw that she was like kind of walking around the park that they were playing in, and he knew she was there. Yeah, and I think the there was a little like tiff that was going on, or a little squabble that was happening, and he ended up getting in a fight with the one of the boys that they were playing baseball with,
Mhm.
and he looked over and saw his mother, and he saw his mother look the other way and keep walking on. I mean, this is like Alberta, Canada. Like this is they're tough people over there, you know. Um, but he says that that was a pivotal moment in his life because it was a big fork in the road. Because if she went over and stopped it,
Yeah.
now mommy just saved me.
Right.
Versus like he got himself out of that,
Right.
and good for her for
Yeah.
not shielding him from the suffering that he. I mean, obviously, like it could have gotten really bad. I'm sure she judged it and was like, "All right, this is something you have to
Right.
deal with."
And that's the hard thing is it's hard to balance and judge like at what point because obviously like we're gonna be careless and like at what point do you step in and help the situation and because you also want the like you want both parties to learn like how to because
Mm-hmm.
I even think about this um when I help with aftercare
Mm-hmm.
at the school,
Yeah.
and so I'm with all the littles, so they constantly come up to me and like, blah blah blah, did this, and oftentimes it's like something silly, and I'm like, well, just talk to him, tell
Yeah.
him, like I'm not gonna go over and tell him what he already knows. Like you tell him and remind him not to do
Those are
that.
such meaningful moments for kids.
I hope so.
No, you don't. You don't even know.
They'll look at me and be like, okay.
Good for you for doing that.
But then it's at some points I also like from across the room if I see somebody like hitting somebody or and I know that someone's
Sure.
about to get hurt, I'm like, I mean, I don't want him to get hurt and I don't even know if he knows that he shouldn't be hitting somebody right now.
And
So
exactly, you want to do what's best, and that's what's best.
yeah. So it's hard because I also don't know these kids very well. Like I
Mm-hmm.
see them once a week on aftercare. So like who are the sneaky ones
Right.
who like need to be talked to and who are the ones who just don't know like
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I think you see through the failures of that happening, of like how you ought to do it.
mhm
Because like that's exactly what you should do is be able to discern when you should intervene, when you shouldn't.
mhm
And I think so. I think I told you about this experience I had at the school I used to work at. Um, and I used to I used to spend a lot of time with a lot of the nurse was overloaded, right? And I used to spend a lot of time at the front desk if I was like I had a break or something like that. And I would do a lot just because of my medical knowledge,
mhm
would do a lot of stuff for the kids that would come up, right? And this one kid came up and he had scraped his palms,
yeah
right? And it was bad. He was bleeding. There was like pieces of gravel stuck in there, and
yeah
he was bawling his eyes out. Must have been 5 years old,
yeah
right? And I don't know, man. Like when I see like a young boy, like in that like moment of like I'm trying to be tough, but this is so hard.
mhm
It just like hits me in the heart really hard, and I was getting him through it. We went to the bathroom and we were like plugging it out, and he would scream every time I would pull a piece of gravel out of his hands, and like I kept telling him like this is gonna make you tougher, like you're gonna get through this, and the next time this happens, you're gonna be able to handle it better. And he was like, okay, okay, and he was like really starting to believe me, and like you could tell
mhm
it was getting him through this.
mhm
And you could tell he was like holding back his tears, and I think we were waiting because we just cleaned him out, and I think
mhm
they were waiting because the nurse had some bandages. But like
sure
he was pretty calm. He was like
yeah
sniffling a little bit, but he
yeah
was calm. And this woman did the most inappropriate thing, and I don't even know who she thinks she was. This visitor visiting
mhm
an administrative person there came in and was at the front desk and said that she was here to see this person, and she saw this little boy, never met him in her entire life, right? This boy doesn't know who she is. She goes up to this boy and, oh my goodness, what happened? And
you
like
coddle
out of
him
out of compassion, I guess, but not because she sees this boy, and And she's like, "Oh my goodness, you need mommy right now. I'll be mommy right now. You can." And she's giving this boy a hug. He starts bawling his eyes out, screaming again. And I'm like,
Just making the
"Are you
situation
kidding
worse.
me?" I was furious at this woman. And the thing is that, like, we knew who she was going to visit, so like we were not going to go and yell at this woman
Mm-hmm.
because me and the front desk woman were just looking at the situation, going, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How absolutely inappropriate was that right now?"
Well, and then that's the other thing is like being the second adult in a situation, because oftentimes like let the first adult like
Right,
help
finish
them
it. Yeah,
figure it out,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
whatever. But then also like when you see like when you see another adult not doing the right thing, at what point do you intervene? Obviously, that was not the right thing.
Right,
You had the situation under control. There was no reason for her to come
right.
in. But even like being in public, I think sometimes I'm not gonna step in when a parent is like disciplining their child or whatever.
Sure. It's where discernment comes in.
They're right. But then I do think about like at what point would I butt in? Like at what point would I see that something like dangerous is happening, or
Yeah.
and that's because obviously just being like an adult there is um like there's I think there's a responsibility just being a human that you have to other humans around you,
Mm-hmm.
and especially as an adult, like being an advocate for kids when you see that they're in need, and like really being discerning about like when are they actually in need, and specifically in need of you
Right.
because nobody else is doing what's supposed to be
But
done.
that's where there needs to be levels deep of a community. And
Yeah.
you need circles of trust
Mhm.
within communities, you know, and kids need to be very, very aware of those circles of trust. Is that your immediate circle of trust is your parents,
Mhm.
right? Or your parents. And then your next level of circle of trust has to be a set of adults where you go, this person takes the place of me when I'm not around. And I
Mhm.
fully trust this adult. And then you have to go, okay, there's other adults that are around that are authority, but they're never going to trump these circle of trust authorities,
Right.
right? And that's really important because they can help, but from a bit of a distance.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, it is stranger danger.
Right.
And that's how it has to be.
Right.
You know, like you're at a school, if the person works at the school, they're probably on the outer ring of trust.
Mhm.
They're not going to trump your and I think every parent, and this is important because I don't think this is established. I think every parent, and I think some do. I think some
Mhm.
really like almost implicitly follow this rule. Every parent should establish one or two people within a school that is within their circle of trust,
Mhm.
right? If you send your child to a school and all of those people are on the fringe of the circle of trust, that child is going to not have their like person to go
Yeah.
to in need, you know? And I think you should, maybe if you're new to a school, right? I think it'd be important to like find the person that you're like, all right, like you have my values, and like maybe invite them to dinner,
Mhm.
right? Like make sure that that person is like somebody familiar to your child, so that when your child's at school, they're not alone and their nervous system's not like, oh my goodness, my parents aren't here and there's no one in this place that I feel as if like really has my back.
Well, yeah, ultimately that's why I think parents should have some sort of relationship with the teacher, like just
Yes.
at least like with littles, I think they should see their parents interact with their teacher
Mm-hmm.
just so they can know.
Oh, there's a huge nervous system settling that comes
Mhm.
along with that.
Yeah, my parents trust them, I can trust them.
But even so, even if it's not the teacher, even if it's like you're telling your like 6 or 7 year old, like if things go really bad here, like this is the person you go to because I
Right.
trust them the most,
Right.
and you should trust them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we do talk about that with the middle schoolers, like, when we start getting into talking about, like, safe environment stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like, make sure you know of a trusted adult who you can go to and talk to about.
But right now, our society doesn't have levels of the circle of trust like that, and I think that a lot of evil creeps in
Mhm.
when that's the case.
Mhm.
Is that kids? I think evil comes along with ambiguity, right? And especially like not clear boundaries and roles that people have is
Yeah.
when evil comes in. And the thing is that I think we're playing cleanup with a lot of
Mhm.
these like virtues training type things where it's like now that you're like 13 years old and you have an attitude about like learning about this, here is how to sift through the chaos of inappropriate adult behavior and appropriate adult behavior.
Yeah.
And it's like
It's hard.
it's but it's cleanup as it's like
Yeah.
an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure,
Mhm.
you know.
Well.
Well, let's we can keep going on that one, but something about the text, just to kind of bring it back to the text that I thought was really, really interesting. And I thought about this. I'm like, I wonder if popes do this. And it was really interesting to see that Pope John Paul II,
On page 97.
on page 97, second paragraph. I mean, it's one paragraph, but it's pretty important. Uh, got together a group of physicists to discuss the idea of where does science fit in, and what can we learn from the the empirical information that we have. And I think he probably picked physicists because they usually have a like pretty good depth of understanding of how nature works,
Okay, yeah.
kind of further than some other subjects
Yeah.
because of how specific they are. But like I thought that was really interesting, and that their first project was to read St. Thomas Aquinas,
Mhm.
and I thought that was really interesting because that really just shows like the motive that Pope John Paul II had
Right.
of like I'm not afraid to find out something. I'm not afraid that these physicists are going to go,
Right.
actually, you know what? Here's your proof that God doesn't exist, or here's the proof that Jesus, whatever you want to say. I think he's just so confident that
Yes,
nothing's
exactly.
going to be disproven. That let's go into this.
Yeah,
Let's dig in.
exactly. It actually is so cool because I was going to mention this about when you were saying that when you were a kid and you found God through nature,
Mm-hmm.
and how I'm curious about how that might have shifted after experiencing suffering, if it shifted the way you perceive nature or experience nature, because the fact that like nature isn't so simple as like, wow, it's so pretty, or like there,
Mm,
but like there's suffering in nature
right.
too, and like there's death in nature,
Mm-hmm.
and there's hurt in nature, and it is really cool that JP2 like sees that we can find out a greater truth about us by understanding the way that God created nature,
Mm-hmm.
which involves suffering.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say like how it changed me,
Mhm.
because when I stopped believing in God when I was a teenager, I still I still believed in the sacred,
Mhm.
and I think I was telling you about that book that I'm reading right now, and how they were talking about how um they experience this like fleeting flash of the sacred,
Yeah.
right? And I think they were talking about Oliver Sacks and how he was the neuroscientist, but he had went on this expedition to find these ferns, which is like amazing that people have such interest in stuff like that. But and how like he felt as if like he just was he had this flash of a moment when he was I think it was in Mexico, and he just realized that like, oh my goodness, like I've been surrounded by something sacred
Mm-hmm.
this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And like he realized, and it was so important what he said is that he realized that it was there all along,
Mm-hmm.
and that he was just given this opportunity to see it for like a flash of a second.
Yeah.
And I felt that. And that's, I think, what carried me through my gap between my belief in God from one part of my life to the next is like
Yeah.
I was chasing that because I knew that that was real.
Mm-hmm. In a more simple way, I was talking to a priest, and um, he's part of a religious community. He went on a trip to it might have been Mexico, but he was at the beach, and he just like had an experience like the um just like looking at nature. He had a moment of really experiencing just for a moment how much God loved him, that he would create all of creation, and that he would get to be in this moment in time
Mm-hmm.
to experience it in the way that, because I think he was like the only one awake at that time, and like nobody else was out there. So
Mm.
it's like all of this is happening and only I'm experiencing it.
Yep.
And so we were talking about the fact that God doesn't love us any less in certain moments.
Yep.
Like that amount of love that he gifted you in that moment is how he loves us at every single moment of our
Yep.
lives.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't always get to see it or experience it.
Right.
In the same way, like everything around us, like there's something sacred just in living in the moment. And it it makes you almost sad in a way
Mm-hmm.
that like we can't experience every moment to its fullest all the time.
Right.
Like we just almost don't have the energy for that. We don't have the mind space for that.
Right.
I think we'd be a lot better about experiencing it more often, but there's something sad about the fact that we so often miss God.
Right. And I think that kind of goes into, I mean, definitely the Sermon on the Mount, right, where
Mhm.
he talks about like how you ought to give, how you ought to pray, right, how you ought to fast, and he goes for no one else, right? Don't make a big pomp and circumstance about it,
Right.
because the thing is, I feel like people go, I suffered, like it's not worth it unless I validate and go, look at I suffered so much.
Mhm.
My gift, my reward for suffering that is how bad you feel about me,
Yeah.
or I gave so much of my money and now I have to sacrifice not having as much, and my reward is wow, look at how generous that guy is,
Well, in a
right?
weird way, you do feel, because I feel this sense of when I do something, I almost there are certain things I have to tell people to know that they're real. A lot of times it's feelings that I have,
Mm-hmm.
like I can't understand this feeling until I tell somebody about it.
Okay.
But also like I shouldn't have to say everything that comes to my mind all the time. I shouldn't have to tell people about everything I experience all the time or
Right.
everything I do. And I should still be able to experience God despite like like the experience itself should be enough.
Right.
Like the experience of suffering should be enough and real without me having to tell somebody.
I realized that I used to tell people way more than I needed to, and I
Mhm.
was realizing how it was. I was almost dulling my perception. Is like I don't really tell people about things I go through as much or things that happen to me, and I try not to complain. I mean, I still
Mhm.
complain, but I try not to. And I realize that, like, I mean, people like find out later on, like, and they find out in like, because I think God does reveal a lot of these things
Yeah.
eventually,
Yeah.
and they find out later on. It's almost like, wow, like you never said anything. I'm just like, this is my experience.
Right.
I did this for my own experience, right? Like, I don't need the validation.
No, yeah. And I think exactly what you're saying, like God will use certain experiences we have, like we had later on
Mm-hmm.
to like maybe help somebody. Like,
Right.
cause really, like at that point, it's not really being revealed for my sake. Like, I don't, like at that point, I don't need to talk about my suffering anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, it feels appropriate to share, like, this is something that I suffered.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be helpful for you to know.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have a more, um, a better understanding of why you suffered too, so you can kind of explain it better rather than just in a complaining way,
Mm-hmm.
but in a way that's actually helpful for somebody else.
Right. I think that God allows people to make themselves exemplars, because I think, like I said earlier, I don't think God ever destines anybody to be some kind of
No,
disaster exemplar of
right.
like, this is a life poorly lived, and here is the example of it. Where I think that if you find that you've poorly lived your life, that you can offer up your life to God and to your world that we live in, as like, it's your giving. It's not God taking.
Hmm.
It's God, you giving, like, wow, like my life was not lived well, right? Like I lived many years of my life horribly,
And
and
even in another way, it is God giving too,
it's what, yeah,
because He's
exactly.
giving you like an opportunity. Like, I know that you suffered, I know it was hard, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that you didn't make the best decisions, but this is like your, like, I'm giving you a path to redemption.
Right, right. And I think that it's, you could even see this on a biological level, is that um, when when a person interprets a suffering that they're going through as something that they're being forced to go through, the neural circuitry that it takes is very much through um, like anxiety and stress type
Right.
pathways, and the orientation. Well, first off, is dopamine is a neurotransmitter that it reinforces behavior, right? And you might say that it's built off of success and failure, right?
Hmm.
And approaching a goal, right? So it's associated with positive emotion. It's not positive emotion itself, which is what people kind of misinterpret. But if you have a goal and you need a goal, everybody has a goal, no matter if you think you do or not, right? And when you are making progress towards that goal, dopamine reinforces that, and as you do that again and you build on that goal, you experience positive emotion as you approach it. But if you think you're being pulled into suffering, it's not a goal. Actually, you're trying to swim away
Mm.
from that thing.
Mm.
So there is there's no meaning in that, right? You're going through something and you're doing something just because you feel like you have to.
Right.
It's a framing of mind that actually on a physical level changes the way that the the neurochemistry plays out.
So if it's something that we choose, then we have a greater capacity to like experience, I don't want to say joy, but maybe like
Meaning.
satisfaction or fulfillment.
Meaning, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you
Mm.
think of something that you're suffering through, if you can imagine a pathway out of it, that you get positive emotion by accomplishing the tasks it takes to get you out of that suffering, or to at least bring you to a place that's better, right? There are certain times of suffering, especially when a child's sick and a child's like terminally ill, where there is not going to be a like everything's all better now, right? But I think that you do have an obligation to set your family straight, right? The family dynamics can fall apart with the death of a child, and I think that there's certain goals that are constantly having to be met,
Mhm.
but there's also you can find meaning through that by making sure that um, that it doesn't turn into hell, right? There's a difference between a really tragic situation and hell, bitterness and resentment building up.
Yeah.
And I think that a bad situation, it can still be aimed at making it optimal, but it's through kind of imagining what would optimal look like and what steps do I have to make to prevent this tragedy from turning into hell and our family falling apart and resentment building up.
That's important to know because I think sometimes people feel when they're in a phase of not accepting their suffering and they feel like they just can't get through it, to know that just to surrender and accept it, like biologically, your body will get through it.
Right.
That's kind of cool. That's just a testament to the fact that, like, God did create us in such a particular way.
Right, and there actually is a comprehensible way to understand how like listening to Jesus's teachings
Yeah,
is literally like on an I mean I fundamentally on a neurological level works.
yeah,
It's not that it like, oh, like there's evidence for this and evidence for that. It's like, no, fundamentally, God created our nervous systems.
yeah.
And I believe through natural selection, right? But I believe that is the mechanism that God took to create our nervous systems. But they they're based off of the fact that that is how reality works,
Yeah.
and that you need to be seeking God, like having a goal that is better than where you're at, right? If you're at point A and point B is better than point A, that better is God,
Mhm.
right? Like or approaching God, right? And you might say that by definition it's approaching God, because if it
Mhm.
was worse, you might go, how is it worse? It's like, well, ultimately you can trail that into absurdity of like, ultimately it's just leading you away from God. All right. So if your point B is better and you have a means to get there, your nervous system and the neurotransmitters in your body are wired to make it so that you have a pathway to getting there and you feel meaning through approaching God.
Mm. That's great.
Right? And I to be honest, the more I learn about, and this is going back to what you were saying about like my earlier understanding of God and how it was very based off of wonder, is that I think that at a certain point, once I once I started to believe in God again, I always studied science, but once I believed in God, the pursuit of my wonder was reinforcing my belief in God,
Mhm.
as opposed to some people are, I think, worried that don't be doing that science stuff too much because eventually you're going to find something out that's going to make you not believe in God anymore.
Yeah.
And I find that I see that. I see that in some people, where some people rationalize why they don't believe in God because of scientific evidence.
Right.
And um, I think that there is a maybe a big waiting period between like a naive understanding of God in a scientific way, and then there's a large period of like learning about science that you're like, I don't think God fits in this. And then I think you get to a certain understanding, and I think it's all through the pursuit of seeking truth, that eventually you return back to a place where you're like, actually, the model that I found out, the model that I put together in my head of how reality works, even through a scientific lens, is not only allowing for God, but couldn't be anything but with God.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And I think that that's where I hope people and you see people that are truth seekers, and I think that anybody that is seeking truth and they believe in an absolute truth, they believe in an absolute God. And I think that their pathway might not always be where they state the belief, I believe in God, but I believe it's always aiming towards that point.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to stop.
Good place to stop?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow. It was a little longer than I thought it was. Well, thank you again for joining us on our 14th episode of The Creation of Anatomy.
Yeah.
Next week, we will be reading our 100th page. Big celebration. But section B, nothing too new, but
Ooh,
why
I think it'll be
Humanae
good.
Vitae in particular?
Do you know what Humanae Vitae means?
I think it means human life, right?
That's my guess.
It sounds like the Latin
Right?
of
The
that.
life of human.
Yeah, right. So we will pick up there.
Great.
We'll see you then.